Now that the Switch 2 is out, is the Nintendo Switch Lite still worth buying? With Nintendo's latest console finally out into the world after years of leaks, speculation and anticipation, you might be wondering which model to buy. The sequel to one of the best and most popular consoles of all time has more power, a bigger and better screen, and brand new social features. The problem is, it's £395.99, and that's without any games. Whether you're after a new console for yourself or picking up a present for your child, we wanted to explore the cheapest Nintendo Switch console to see how it stacks up against the latest and greatest Switch 2. The Switch revolutionized the console by offering a device that could be played in handheld mode like classic Nintendo consoles, the DS and Game Boy, as well as being docked to a TV to allow you to play games on the big screen. I'm Matt from the Madeformums team, and join me as we answer the question, is the Nintendo Switch Lite still worth buying? There are currently 4 Switch models on sale. The brand new Nintendo Switch 2 includes a larger screen, more powerful internals that allow for 4K resolution when docked in TV mode, as well as new Joy-Con 2 controllers with magnetic attachments and mouse mode. It's a slick console that pretty much pluses everything good about the previous Switch. But, as we mentioned, it's also £395.99 without any games. Believe it or not, the very first Switch is still on sale almost 10 years on from launch, though we suspect it won't last much longer and probably wouldn't recommend buying one. Next up is the Nintendo Switch OLED, the second version of the first generation Switch that comes with a souped up screen. The OLED model is currently retailing at $299.99. And then there's the Nintendo Switch Lite, the handheld only version of the first generation Switch, which can play all the same games as the original Switch, but cannot be used in TV mode. So, there are 4 Switch consoles available, with the cheapest being the Nintendo Switch Lite and the most expensive being the new Switch 2. Which one should you buy? That depends on a few things. First off, we should address the cost. If money is no object, then the Switch 2 is the future-proofed best of the best option. If you're wondering if you should buy the Nintendo Switch OLED, we'd probably advise you spend the extra £100 and buy the Switch 2. However, if you just want to play Nintendo games and you're not bothered about the better screen, performance or social features, then the Switch Lite is 100% the best value option. At £200 less than the Switch 2, this is the best way to play for the least amount of money, making it a great option for gifting or just passing time on your commute. One criticism of the Switch 2 has been the distinct lack of new games exclusive to the console. Of the big Nintendo franchises, it's only really Mario Kart World you can't play on any of the previous Switch consoles. The Switch 2 is backwards compatible with games from the first generation Switch, but does that warrant spending an extra £200? Compare that with the Switch Lite, which can play pretty much anything. Want to play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom? The Switch Lite can do that. Sure, those games are available on the Switch too, the 2 Zelda titles have even been remastered for the new console, but that's another £60 on top of the console. For the price of the Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World, you could buy a Switch Lite console, both Zelda games, Mario Kart 8, and either Pokemon Scarlet or Violet. When it comes to games, which console you pick will be entirely down to your desire to future-proof your purchase. There aren't many Switch 2 only games out now, but that will change. If you want the best of everything, including new versions of both Zelda titles, and you're okay with the price tag, then we'd suggest going for the Switch 2. Otherwise, the Lite is the better option, particularly if you've got younger kids who want something to do on a long journey. The last question to ask yourself is how important TV mode is to you or the person you're buying the Switch for. If they prefer to play games on the biggest screen possible, then the Switch 2 is the only option we'd recommend. However, if they're on the go a lot, or you're after a console you can buy for your child, then the Switch Lite is the best bet. Sure, you can't dock the console, but you're getting access to tons of games at a great price. So, is the Switch Lite worth buying? The short answer is yes. The Switch Lite is a fantastic console for the price that allows you to play pretty much any Switch game not exclusive to the Switch 2. Compared to the Switch 2, it is significantly less powerful, meaning games won't look as good or run as smoothly, and there are a bunch of cool new features on the new console. But if all you want is to play Nintendo games or give you a little peace and quiet for 5 minutes, then the Switch Lite is still a great buy. What do you think? Do you think the Switch Lite is still a great console, or is it worth paying the premium for the Switch 2? Remember to hit like and subscribe to the Madeformums channel for parent-tested best lists, explainers, and more. See you in the next video.